Hi class, in this video we're going to look at some advanced classes that are available to work with database objects. As time has gone on, C# has gotten more intelligent about the requirements of working with a database, so we can move away a little bit from the manual SQL statements and controls that we've been using so far. The data adapter and the data set are the components that we'll be using. The data set is visualized here because the data adapter is just kind of an interface to the data set. The data set is consisted of or comprised of data tables, much like our actual database itself. So we can have a table in our data set, and in that table we can have rows of data. Each of those rows of data has columns of data, and we can have constraints associated with those rows, like they can't be deleted, and if they have children, different things like that. We can have additional data tables in that same data set. We address those in some different ways syntactically, but in general we can act like we have an array of data tables, and within each data table array entry we have an array of data rows, and within each array of data rows we have an array of data columns. So if you think about that multi-dimensional array structure is really what we have going on inside the data table. It gives us a huge amount of flexibility. It does require a little bit of forethought when you're working with it. So for our first project, we will be looking at creating an application that uses a data set. I'm going to create a new instance of Visual Studio and a new project. And I want to make sure it's in the right place. Looks good. I'm going to call this solution. Let me change my project name first, right, because it always overrides it. So this will be DataSet App. And in my solution name, I'm going to put that this is Chapter 14, Advanced Classes, so that maybe we can do multiple projects in the same solution without having to start over and over all that again. Now this form is pretty empty. Let's give it a nice title. We'll call it the DataSet App. I'm going to leave the rest of it as is, and I'm going to go ahead and view my code. Now we don't have any code in here as of yet. Should give this form a better name. Let's do it. We're going to name this form Update because we're going to use this data set and data adapter to allow updates to our database. So in our form, let's put a couple buttons. This first button is going to be load data, and I'll name it btn load, and I'll copy it and paste it, and we'll call this one btn update. Now, if you notice, I'm not going to put any other controls on our form, and you'll see why here in a minute. So let's start with our load data event procedure. For our load data event, we're going to need some database objects here. So let's create some. First of all, we're going to just put everything into one class here to simplify. We're going to need our SQL. Oh, I need a using, don't I? Let's fix this. system.data.SQL client. That should be better. And then I'll try that again. We need an SQL DataAdapter. We'll call this member data adapt. We need a data set. If you notice, that's not actually in our SQL client namespace. It is at a higher level in the data namespace. So it's available. It's the same type of object for all of our different ADO.NET providers. Hint, hint, we can transfer data back and forth between different providers easily with the data set. Now we're going to name this data set member DS for data set. We're going to use another object called the SQL command builder. I'm going to get it set up. We'll call its associated string parameter cbuilder. We need, of course, our connection. And we're still going to need our command object. Now to control some of our object information, we need our connection string. And our SQL command string, right? So that should give us everything that we need. So if somebody clicks our load button, we want to try to load some data. I know we don't have a control yet on our form. We're going to take care of that. So again, putting everything into one class here, we're going to construct our connection. Class to store our connection string. Remember, that's our data provider, etc. Okay, so for our connection string, we need a connection string from Canvas. Just copy it here and paste it. And then I want to make sure that it looks okay. Pretty long, huh? Go down to another line. It is hugely long. All right. Zoom in a little bit so you can see that. So we have our AWS endpoint available. And let's see, we need to fix our catalog name, our database, initial database, to be our username, and our user ID, and our password. So use yours, not mine. Now, after we establish our connection string, we can establish our connection. And we're going to tell it, yeah, use that connection string. Now we can set up our SQL command the same as we did before. There's our select statement. Looks great. Have that ready to run. Now, we are going to construct our command object as we did before. Now for our command object, we're going to say the command you're supposed to run is in this SQL string. And of course, we could just set that SQL string directly to that command text. We don't have to have that variable. And then we're going to tie the command object to the connection alt. There we go. So now we've got that association made. Now we are ready to access our data. So we're going to use the data adapter. Remember, we called it member data adapt. And it's just the thing that's going to connect to our database for us. And then we're going to say, hey, member data adapter. The command you're supposed to run is in db command. And then we're going to allocate our data set. Now, as we set properties for our data adapter, now we're going to set properties for our data set. And in our data set, we have some kind of interesting ways to make them connect to each other. We're using our data adapter and saying, we want you to fill. What I want you to fill is this member data set. And the fill that you create within that data set, I want you to call it member table. Now, notice we could have called this anything we like. We're just calling it the same thing as our table is originally named. Now I'm going to add 2 more lines of code to connect this data source, our data set, with a data grid that we're going to add to our form. So I'm going to just leave the name default. And we're saying, this is your data set. And hey, data grid, each of the members in that data set that should be displayed are these member table entries. Now let's create our catch, and then we'll put that data grid on our form. It looks like we also need to put a label on our form to hold that message. So let's do that. Our form, move these up just a teeny bit. I'm going to add this label, and I will name it appropriately. LDO message. And then a data grid. Here's our data grid view control. We're going to drop that on our form. I'm going to make it a little bit bigger so that it can hold our data. Make sure that our errors have gone away. Good. Run my application. When I click load data, it should connect to the SQL server and pull my member table data. Yay. Okay, so let's implement our update. Now you know that when we were doing native SQL commands, we had to do a lot of work to get that update facility going. Let's see some easier ways to do it. Double click on your update data button. And in this event procedure, we're going to use the command builder. we allocated the command builder when we were building our class level fields. So for our command builder, we have to set up a command builder string, kind of like a connection. And we're going to say, okay, this is your new command builder, and it is the member DataAdapt that I want you to build commands for. So now command builder is smart enough that it's going to look at that data adapter and say, oh, I see it contains one table. And by the way, we can only use the command builder in a data set or data adapter that contains one table. It's going to look at that and say, I understand how this table is formatted. I can build commands to update this data. We'll tell it to do so. And we're going to say, I want you to allow us to update that data adapter using our data set and the member table in the data set. Now, those 2 lines of code are doing a ton of work, aren't they? Especially if that takes care of all of the stuff that we did in our previous application. Don't be mad at me. You have to know how to do that manual stuff, because there is a lot of it out there. That's the way it was done for a very long time, and sometimes that's the way it's still done. All right, so we've got our command builder code set. Let's run it. I'm going to load my data. Let's change some things. I'll make him Jimberly. Let's delete James. We'll press the delete key. And then I'd like to add a new one. All right, let's update that data. Looks good. Now I want to close out of the application, run it again, and see if our update's stuck, right? Oh, there's Jimberly. Our row is missing. And do we have our new row? Yep, there's our new one. So just those few lines of code using that command builder object, we were able to maintain this table in a very quick and easy way. So great. Thank you.